I know, what we desperately needed was another Daytona Homage, right? Well, that's what was going through my mind when I was unpacking this Panda chronograph from Watchdives, and not until I've got really close and personal with this watch, I realized that Watchdives are actually onto something here. But will it be enough to convince you, the potential customer, to buy their version of this iconic design? Well, we have it here. Let's find out. Hello and welcome back. So we will have a few things to unpack here. First, of course, we'll need to see what Watchdives did that is different from any other similar homages. And believe me, while this watch looks very much like any other Daytona homage, there are a few areas that are specific only to this Watchdives design. Then $1 million question will be, did all or at least some of those differences gave Watchdives an edge, that is, made them in some ways better than competition? And then we will need to weigh our findings against the price and see how well this Watchdives chronograph is positioned against some of the options available to us, like these two bad boys that I have here. However, before we do, a brief disclaimer: Watchdives did send me this chronograph for review and I get to keep it. In return, I was asked to present a comprehensive review of this timepiece and point you to Watchdives product listings where you can explore this watch further if you so wish. So, as always, all the necessary links will be in the description of this video. Design, right. This is the section where I'm supposed to talk about the design. However, there is no particular design to discuss. Well, I guess I can point out that this Watchdives, which is a homage to an iconic Rolex Daytona, of course, is available in 3 different colorways, including a two-tone one. So, looking at dimensions, we have 39mm case diameter, 20mm lug width and 12.3mm case height, taking a full advantage of the slim Seiko VK63 megaquartz movement that is powering this watch. Lug-to-lug distance is 47.6mm, and measuring the distance between the protruding end links, we get just a smidge under 51mm. And with end links curving down quite aggressively, we have a set of very manageable proportions here. By the way, not much different from other similar homages out there. So, in theory, this watch should work on most wrist sizes, starting from about 6 inches and up. However, there is one important caveat here, which we will discuss when we examine the bracelet. As supplied, this watch should cover wrists up to 8¼ inch or 21 centimeters in circumference, and this watch weighs 137 grams and 123 grams after adjusting it to my about 7-inch wrist. As we look at this full stainless steel construction case, we see only mirror polish finish on the sides of the case and on top of the lugs. The finish is very decent and the transitions between the facets are well defined, so no complaints here. We have fixed ceramic bezel with engraved tachometer scale framing the white Panda dial. Now, this bezel, while it looks like any other tachometer scale bezel, has a little trick up its sleeve. The markings are loomed, which is pretty cool, and the loom is actually pretty good too, as we will see shortly. We have a screw-down crown and a screw-down pushes with a side crown protected by crown guards. A very familiar design, so no surprises here. Turning the case around, and again, no surprises here either. A very familiar sterile screw-on case back. I do like that the case is nice and flat, definitely helping with comfortable wrist fit of this watch. And we shouldn't forget that Watchdives declared 100 meters of water resistance here, which sounds very practical and very plausible. Just don't forget to tighten those chronograph pushers before jumping in the water. So we have a perfectly flat sapphire crystal here. It sits ever so slightly proud of the bezel and has a neat bevel around the perimeter. According to Watchdives product listings, there is an anti-reflective coating applied, and while filming this watch in various lighting conditions, like outside in the sun and under the studio lights, the legibility remained really good. We of course have a very familiar dial layout on this chronograph. I like the dial background, it looks like a touch creamy white enamel, and with applied hour indices and slightly recessed black chapterings of the sub-dials, we get a bit of a depth on this dial, which is nice. The multifaceted hands and hour markers are well proportioned and bounce the light really nicely. I also like that the hands are well sized, with the chronograph second hand and the minute hand stretching all the way to the edge of the dial. We have the WachDives logo and 2 lines of text under 12 o'clock marker, all printed and not too busy, while still balancing out the dial pretty well. And you probably noticed that there is no date on this dial. While personally I consider the date a very practical complication, I know that there are a lot of watch enthusiasts out there that will appreciate that WachDives stuck to more classic no-date dial layout here. And we definitely need to look at the lume. I must say that the lume performance was a bit of a surprise, and not because it is so wonderful, it is actually fine, but by no means groundbreaking. The reason I was surprised was because the lume on this chronograph was considerably better than on other similar homages I reviewed in the past, which is another, of course, brownie point to this WachDives. Okay, so we have here Seiko VK63 Mecha Quartz movement. It is a very popular movement, especially for budget chronographs, and frequent viewers of my channel will probably know that it is not our average quartz movement. It actually combines a quartz battery-powered base module and a mechanical chronograph module, giving us the best of both worlds, so to speak, an accuracy and dependability of a quartz and a sweeping second hand of the mechanical chronograph. Now, the battery in this movement can last up to 3 years, depending on how often we use the chronograph, and we have 3 subdials here. Subdial at 3 o'clock position being a 24-hour indicator, the subdial at 6 o'clock showing us the running seconds, and subdial at 9 o'clock position a 60 minutes chronograph accumulator. When it comes to the bracelet, there are a couple of interesting points here. With some I'm very much on board with, and some, well, at least one I find a bit strange. So we have a solid stainless steel oyster-style bracelet here with high-polished center links. No surprises here. The integration between the lugs and the end links is done really well, and as I pointed out earlier, I really like the aggressive curvature of the end links. The sides of the links are also mirror polished, and we have pins connecting the links here, which is perfectly fine. Well, it would have been perfectly fine if we also didn't have screws connecting the very last links between the bracelet and the clasp. This looks like a bit of an odd design decision, however, apparently there is method in this madness, as we will see now when we look at the clasp. So we have a signed, robust double pusher clasp here with milled inner mechanism and plenty of macro adjustments, which ensures that we can get a comfortable fit as we desire. I know that this clasp is somewhat different to what we would expect to see on the Rolex Homage, however, luckily WachDives got us covered here. For extra $15 on their website we can get this clasp, which features more familiar design and even on-the-fly adjustment. And because this clasp uses screws to connect the links, the screws on this watch now make more sense. Well, kinda, but let's talk more about it in the verdict. So let's look at the price and draw some conclusions. So this WachDives is available from their website for $99, and there are quite often promotional discounts available that can take off about $20 off that price, which of course is very much welcome. I also should point out that we get about the same price from the official store on AliExpress, and that price also fluctuates with various sales. Now, before we draw a verdict on this watch, let's look at the negative and positive areas. So the only area that I think could do with some improvement is the bracelet links, screws and pins combination. Although not a deal breaker, because we still have enough removable links and macro adjustments to play with, we do end up with a slight impediment here as a result. And that impediment is that we cannot remove all the removable links. Again, not a problem unless you need to make this watch fit wrists under 6¼ inch. So, something to keep in mind. Alright, so what are my favorite parts of this watch then? Well, definitely my first favorite part is unusually good lume. The second is good build quality and finishing, and we also get no date here. And we have simple and robust bracelet clasp, which I think is a good design decision at this price point. And we also get bezel lume, which is cool, however, possibly a bit gimmicky, because the second hand is not lumed, which kind of makes the bezel illumination, well, fun to have, but not very useful. Now, do all these improvements worth about extra $50 for this Watchdives compared to closest competition? Well, personally, I think that yes, and the biggest ticket item for me is loomed, followed by more robust build. But what do you think? Well, do let us know in the comments. And if you like Rolex homages, well, guess what? I have a full playlist, which I will link on the screen over here. Of course, don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already done so. Take care, and I will see you in the next video.